now move on, rather delayed, to Bernard, please.
Certainly, thank you, Chair. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Bernard Kennedy, the ASLEF Branch Secretary Train Drivers Union in Bristol, and I represent 335 drivers across 9 businesses, which obviously include the GWR drivers that operate not only the Severn Beach line, but all the other local services in the Bristol area. I know I've not got much time as we're overrunning. I just want to talk about 2 things, the dreaded COVID and also Bristol East and Bristol Temple Meads, already been mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. So yes, COVID, unfortunately, as with everywhere else, has severely disrupted the rail services throughout the country. But I'll just talk about Bristol, and that is all of the train operating companies in and out of Bristol have had problems with their service levels and staff levels, particularly, including keeping competency up and having enough drivers and guards and operational staff to maintain the service. And there's obviously a lockdown again at the moment, so there are less people travelling. I referred earlier to people I saw at Temple Meads. I haven't been on the Severn Beach line, so I don't want to stir up a big discussion about that. I do question about sort of that. Can I just take my phone out? Sorry about that. So there was questions asked on the email about a couple of services. 2 Kilo 02 was mentioned, 2 Kilo 03, which is Temple Meads to Avonmouth and return service. I asked the question of GWR about what was happening about these services. And GWR have responded saying that they're currently reviewing and reducing service levels to all destinations in respect of the current COVID restrictions and the lack of passengers travelling on the railway. We've also a number of fellow crew off with either COVID or self-isolating stroke shielding issues. So to protect the overall service, some trains have been cancelled. Unfortunately, so what GWR haven't, of course, been doing is telling FoSBR and other organisations what is happening. So if they're going to reduce a service or cancel a service, then they should let people know, particularly the users, if there is a reason why they can't run a service. I know on my own company, and as most of you know, I, as well as working on the local passenger trains, I have worked on the freight services out of Avonmouth and Portbury, and I'm currently now working for Arriva Cross Country. I have been now for the past 6 years. We're operating something like a 64% of the service we would normally, so it's like a Sunday service or less. And we're having a terrible job in terms of sorting out training, because you can't have 2 people in the cab, and you've got to be very careful about social distancing within the trains as well. So all of that is disrupting our current training and service levels. I could go on about that, but I know I'm short of time. So I'm just going to go on to the second topic, which is the developments at Bristol Temple Meads and Bristol East. Major construction and development and work is happening. If you've been down to Temple Meads at all over the past few weeks, you'll have seen the new East Gantry that's now been erected, although it's not got any signals on it yet. It's higher than the old one, and it obviously eventually will have the signals on it, and there'll be 1 extra line. As with the 4-tracking of Filton, it comes down round Dr. Days towards Temple Meads and shuffles, unfortunately, from 4 into 3, which does create a bottleneck. The new junction, the newest junction, will run straight into Temple Meads with the 4 lines plus the 2 lines from London, so it will be much better. It's also the first time since, I think, 1970 that the signalling and the infrastructure will be renewed. So I did talk a little bit about this at the last AGM, but now we can see in sight when the work is going to be done later this year. So there was going to be further disruption no matter what happens with COVID. But once it's done, it will be so much better. And plans have already, the timetable has been mentioned on the email about how much better it will be. I'm going to finish there, and to also put ASLEF's money where its mouth is, we will continue to support FoSBR and the wonderful work that it does. And I've been instructed by my branch to donate £300 to the treasurer. So I need to email you, Tony, about doing a bank transfer for that. And I haven't also done my personal or ASLEF's membership, but I'll send you an email and sort that one. And that's my contribution. I'm prepared to take any questions.
Very generous.
Rob, thank you.
Thanks very much for your generosity, Bernard.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that the issues that you raised are important ones to be aware of, that COVID is impacting on services. We need to know, and we need to be asking GWR particularly, and aware that there will be disruption, which we are starting to see with the cancellation of some evening services, which they have told us about because of Bristol East work.
Rob, just to say that Alex Perry is your guy to send stuff to. He's the mayor's man on the transport board. He's in touch with Mark Hotwood and James Freeman. We have a regular discussion about this and feed in based on what councillors tell us. And thanks to Tina in Biggs in the past, that's the reason you have such a good service on the 7 Beach line. Okay. But every week is being looked at, but for local trains. So feed in, because the DFT is looking to reduce the budgets and the services. Yes. It's not first, it's the DFT.
No. Okay. Thanks, David. I was going to go over to Nigel next. If Nigel, if you're there, returning passenger numbers and it is related to that particular topic, really, isn't it?
Yeah, hoping to.
You're muted, Nigel. You're muted.
Right, is it?
Ah, there you go.
No, he's gone off again.
No, it's on.
Off again.
Ah.
On again. On the.
Strange.
I think. Are you doing this, Carol, to him?
No, I'm not. Look, no hands.
I think he's got an issue with his microphone.
I found that I was pressing mine and it was going repeatedly on off. I don't know if there was. I
think we got him at. Oh no.
Slow.
Hello. Will it stay? Yeah.
Hello, Nigel.
Nigel Bray, Secretary of Rail Future's Sevenside branch. I see the challenge of attracting passengers back to rail as having 3 elements. One is restoring people's confidence in rail travel. 2 is marketing train services when restrictions are removed. And 3 is changes to ticketing. Firstly, we need to dispel the notion that using trains is unsafe or unclean. What we need to do is tell our friends and acquaintances about journeys we've made, particularly since the start of the first lockdown. I made 9 return journeys between June and December, including 5 between Gloucester and Torquay. Nearly all the trains ran to time and on-train staff were helpful. Now, some people may be deterred from making trips by train, particularly longer trips, because of the requirement to wear masks while in the train. The obvious loophole is to eat or drink, intermittently of course, on the journey. One thing we need to do is emphasise the greater comfort of rail compared to other modes. Now, one strong point of trains is they normally have toilets, and that's something to bear in mind particularly if services are delayed. Last week, I had a chair delivered by John Lewis, presumably from Cribbs Causeway, and it arrived hours late. The van driver told me he'd been stuck for 3.5 hours on the M5, this is the 21st of January, following a multiple collision. So it's either poor motorists and their passengers wanting to have a pee if they're stuck on a very congested motorway. Now, marketing train services, at the moment, the Emergency Measures Agreement, the GWR, does not permit it to market its services while it's being bailed out by the government. So earlier this month, I wrote to Mark Hopwood suggesting that community rail partnerships, of which we have a number in the Southwest, do the marketing. I mentioned Trans Wilts, I mentioned Sevenside CRB, which in recent years produced leaflets promoting stations such as Filton Abbey Wood and Yates. And Mark Hopwood's reply was very supportive. Now, crucially, people need a reason to travel. I think that's another reason why it will take some time to pull up passenger numbers again. But reopening of visitor attractions will probably coincide with the return of allowing non-essential travel. Now, these attractions are often very supportive of their local stations. In 2018, I went by train to Kenilworth on the day that the station reopened, and English heritage staff at the castle told me the station would be a great help in attracting visitors. Finally, changes to ticketing. A growing number of train operators have introduced flexible season tickets to suit people who do not want or are not able to travel to work 5 days a week. GWR, I've been told, is awaiting DfT approval for its own scheme for flexi season tickets. Now, another group that needs a better deal is rail card holders. They've lost out because they paid for 12 months entitlement to cheaper travel, but have been prevented from travelling during the more severe periods of COVID restrictions. The DfT has so far resisted extending the validity dates of rail cards. Rail Future is suggesting that either extensions to the expiry date be granted, or that rail card holders be offered a free return ticket of their choice. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel. Can I ask Keith Walton from the Sevenside Community Rail Partnership to speak for us briefly?
Yeah, very briefly. I take up the point that once we are allowed to do so, we will resume marketing the local train services. We have been preparing for this time, and we'll have a number of ideas for walks from stations, family outings, events on trains, all this. But we cannot do this until the government agrees and the lockdown and the various COVID scenarios disappear. But we are there. We've worked throughout the last 9 months with the communities to improve things, to issue masks and packs to school children. We have worked with the arts people to do things when we were allowed to do it, periods of this. You've only got to look at what we've achieved during this period at Stapleton Road, where the station is, the artwork there, the new gates, the station has been completely transformed there. There's more work going to start shortly at Stapleton Road to do up Fox Park on the other side of the main road, because this has been left derelict after the four-tracking. Network Rail are very, very keen on us doing this, and we have now got local artists to prepare work on this, and indeed Network Rail are supporting this considerably financially to get that going. We're pleased that we've now got for St Andrews Road a community group there, first time ever on that. We have been working with the Avonmouth group and the Secret Garden, and during the lockdowns the produce from there has continued to be harvested and sent either to the local people who needed it, or indeed to when it was open, to the community centre in Avonmouth for them to use in their kitchens for soup and this sort of thing. So there's a lot going on. It will be fully described in our annual report, which should be available towards the end of this month. I'll let FoSBR, of course, have copies to distribute.
Just, I'm modelling the Seven-Side CRP face mask. Are they still available, Keith?
There are a few of them still available, yes.
Yeah.
I think you'll have to agree they're really rather dapper.
Thanks, Keith, and
Right.
thanks, Tim. Keith, I just want to add, in terms of marketing, one of the things that I think that's one area where FoSBR can really play a part in terms of, you were saying about events, and I think if we can, I am particularly concerned about the impact of passenger numbers and the pressure from the Treasury for cuts. And I think we need to do as much as we can to try to support people to feel safe to return to the railways, and give people a reason to come with other people in a safe way when we can.
Agree on this, and we will do all we can to support properly organised events and schemes. Yes.
Yeah, we'll obviously keep you in the loop.
Indeed,
and
yes, please.
Work with you on those sorts of
Yes,
things.
thank you.
Can I go on to I don't know if you're there. Owen Polly.
I'm here, Rob.
Hi, from Acorn.
Yes.
Sorry to you and to everybody that we've been running late. If you could briefly tell us what you're doing as a community union.
Yeah, I will. So hi everyone. Yes, my name's Owen. I'm the departing chair actually of Acorn Bristol. We're a community union that was formed actually here in Bristol in 2014. And we've now got over 20 groups around the country. So in Bristol alone, we've got 1,200 paid up members, and I'm delighted to say some of your members are some of ours as well in this very meeting. We're sort of for everyone, but mainly focused on the needs of lower income people and working class communities. So we're member led and campaign on what's affecting our members. So our initial focus as a union was focused on things like tenants' rights, but we moved on to other areas such as council tax benefit, local environment, public transport, that sort of thing. So as a union, we build power in our communities by getting wins for our members through direct action. So whether that's turning up at a landlord's house who's mistreating their tenants, shutting down estate agents, doing comms blockades, that kind of thing. And we certainly don't have sort of the same level of expertise as I know a lot of people here do about public transport and that sort of thing. But what we do is we do actions that are well organised, creative, fun, and get media attention. So our members sort of decided that, you know, what was a really big issue for our members in a year or so ago was that they were sick of the bad buses in Bristol, poor service and that kind of thing, and decided alongside other Acorn branches to demand public control of the buses through a franchising scheme, given that public ownership isn't really on the table anymore. So we think that, you know, alongside other measures such as increased bus prioritisation and integrated ticketing, that franchising is essential to expand routes, improve services and lower fares in Bristol and around. And we don't think we can trust First Bus to run buses for people's needs. So what we've done is we've done things like took to the streets with a large cardboard bus early last year, made a big red cardboard bus and went through Broadmead and made a big scene. We had lots of bus related chants and songs, and also formed Bristol's longest ever bus queue with about 100 of our members forming the bus queue, giving out flyers and stuff to people in the city. We took the bus for another spin to the WECA offices to deliver our demands to the ever elusive Tim Bowles, who obviously wasn't there to meet us. But then what we did is we produced wanted posters that we put up all over across the bus stops around the city centre in an old sort of Wild West style with his face on it. Obviously, Corona has hampered our campaigning somewhat in terms of the creative actions that we do, but we are now focusing on sort of the other candidates in the run-up to the WECA mayoral elections, and it looks like we're now going to be sort of working alongside Zero West and Transport for Greater Bristol as well. So that's about it really. I know short time, so I'm just popping a link in the chat there to our website so you can sort of see some of the other things we get up to. Obviously love anyone here to join. And yeah, hopefully we can sort of work together on some stuff going forward. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Owen. I know certainly in Lockleys there's been the issue of speeding, and there have been some lovely photo opportunities of people potholing as well, with the potholes in our local streets. Some very creative ideas, and I think some things that we could learn from perhaps. Olga, are you there now?
I am indeed, yes.
Filming?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about filming briefly, if I may. I would like really to start on a positive note. I'm going to share my screen very briefly as well. And just to point out that although the campaign may feel like it's gone very quiet, we are trying to keep a very low profile for obvious reasons. Excuse me. It feels that a lot of things are moving along. And I would like to say a big thank you to FoSBR for all the hard work that you've been doing for many years, because you planted these seeds which are starting to grow now. So this is just a very quick screenshot to show you that we had a very good passenger footfall before the pandemic struck. So as you can see right at the bottom of my screen here, we counted 710 passengers, which I would like to point out is a 1,440% increase in passenger numbers since the footbridge went down. So I'll stop boring you sharing my screen if I find a way to stop sharing. And just very briefly to update everyone on the current situation. Back in the summer, in June 2020, we applied for the Restoring Your Railways Fund with the Department for Transport. And I must say, our application was rushed. It wasn't very easy to put it together. However, what we did, we used the material that FoSBR prepared in 2018, particularly Tina. I would like to say a big thank you to you for your presentation at WECA in July 2018. It formed the base for our application for the Restore Your Railways Fund. And of course, there was all the hard work from the professor from the University of West of England. Also, what I did in a sneaky way, I put through a request for a freedom of information to WECA to explain exactly how Tina's presentation was received back in 2018 and exactly what WECA discussed and what the feedback was. Interestingly, WECA very quickly got back to me and they confirmed that they thanked Tina and it wasn't discussed any further. I feel this is a shame that there isn't this link between FoSBR and the authorities where FoSBR really could stand up. I mean, this is an organization which is a few hundred members strong, and we are in a position to call the politicians to account, and this is a perfect example when they thank the presenter and do exactly nothing. But on a more positive note, this presentation was used in our application. The feedback from the DFT came back saying we had a lot of very strong submissions, and unfortunately yours didn't make the final. However, last week I received an invitation again from the DFT to take part in the third tranche of Restoring Your Railway fund. The closing date is in March, as you probably know, and Pilning Station Group have an intention to make another submission. So if FoSBR would like to lend us a helping hand in any capacity, if you have any documents that we could include with the support, I'd be very grateful to you. So there we go. Thank you.
Thanks, Olga. And it's always very inspiring that even when things are quiet, you're managing to get in the newspaper about the desert of Sevenside, which I thought was a really important piece of thing to get in the news, because Pilning has such great potential for Sevenside, and it's well, it's a travesty and all of that the things that have happened.
Yes, we're also in the private eye, Rob. Sorry to just to interrupt you there. So yes, keep your eyes open.
Yes,
it's a very popular area now.
Good. I don't think we've got any more speakers that we were going to ask to speak. I realise we've overrun it by 13 minutes. I'm happy if people want to talk at all further, but I think generally it's probably good to bring things to a close. But if anybody wants to chat with me, I'm happy for sort of 5 or 10 minutes, I suppose, to talk. But otherwise, I'll bring the meeting to a close, I think. My apologies for the late running and technical hitches, and I hope you forgive us for our unfamiliarity, I suppose, or certainly mine, with this.
Could I ask a question of Keith while he's still on the line?
Yes, please do.
Keith, do you have any insight into whether the half-hour service will actually come with the December timetable?
As far as I know, yes.
That's the answer I wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's what I'm told, but you know, I can't guarantee it. But that's the plan. I certainly know that. Yes.
Well, the work that WECA are paying to do between Bristol and Westbury is intended to allow that to be in the December timetable, and Network Rail are assuming it's going to happen, aren't they?
Yeah.
Although there was an issue of driver training, which Bernard alluded to earlier. You know, if they can't get the drivers trained, then that's a problem. Tina, sorry, go on, Tina, speak.
I just wanted to say thank you very much, everyone, for the lovely 10 years. I will obviously come to next AGM, but just as a normal person. I'm sure you've all had the email and the website put up a kind of valedictory message from me, but it's been a great 10 years. It's been really fantastic. We're going to try to just do another press release to the post with your lovely present. So if you didn't see, it's a puzzle in the shape of the FoSBR rail plan, so which is wonderful, and I think there's lots of mileage you could have with that, and I'm almost tempted to do an article on each puzzle piece and some reminiscences of Rage of the Lost Ark and hacking through the undergrowth and being tipped off by Network Rail. It's the funniest actually with Thornbury, where we discovered the A38 tunnel, you know, which ends in a private tunnel which has now got tanks in it. We didn't see the tanks, but yeah, the tanks Carol. But yeah, so there was this moment we had to climb down into the cutting, and there was a tunnel. It was a wonderful moment. I mean, incredible. But we really weren't supposed to do that. And I did take some photos, but when I told one of the officers at WECA, he said, you know, Network Rail will throw the book at you. And I was just really tickled that you know, they were aware of it and they were uneasy with what we were doing, and it just gave FoSBR that kind of slight wild edge, which I hope you'll never lose. I really hope that we remain a slightly dangerous crowd that you just don't want to upset too much. I just want to say as well how much I love the committee. I really recommend, please step up the committee if you possibly have any time in the day. It's the most wonderful fun. We have lots of fun, and meeting once every month is lovely because you just keep up that sort of sense of friendship and you know, sharing. So you know, obviously it's lots of work and it will go into more work if you get involved, but I do recommend it. It's really worthwhile. And I think what's really fun is being at the table with really good people. I mean, I met Nicholas Falk at one of the Connected Cities conferences and, you know, invited him along, and wasn't he amazing? And people do respect rail. They really do. You know, at political level, it's recognised as a really big British thing, rail. And I really hope we can bring in the light rail as well. So yeah, just thank you very much. Love you all. I wouldn't have left FoSBR if it wasn't for this amazing opportunity I got to do a postdoctoral research project. I'm taking a GWR train at 0707 twice a week to Swansea, which is 2 hours. So it's a really nice direct train, really smooth. I mean, if Bernard had been driving that train, I think it must have been Bernard because it was such a smooth start. Oh, well, that's sad, isn't it? Brendan just reminded me of Brendan's on cross country. But yeah, so yeah, it's just been amazing. And I sort of see Filton Bank, you know, and this sort of coming into Bristol. I just think it's so worthwhile what we're doing. It really is. And we get a lot of respect across the city from other campaigners because they just know that we have the technical knowledge that it's just very geeky what we do, and it takes time to build that knowledge and how systems work. But they do listen to us. They really do. So please get involved. Please step up. Just do something small to start off with. Whatever your skill set is, just really, they're a great bunch. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Tina, just to help our people on the contract, I've just got a message from Marvin Rees. They've signed a contract on Portway Park and Ride and the Avonmouth Westbury service. A legal agreement, 300 pages, being signed between the authorities, WECA, North Somerset, and Network Rail and First Group PLC. It's a signed deal, so there'll be sorts of penalty clauses and legal things if it doesn't happen in December. It's not a DFT project. It's a local authority project and they're underwriting it. So he's made that very clear. So if he's still the mayor, I think somebody will be held to a big account if it doesn't run.
Right.
That's Marvin. Not Weka, but Marvin.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to say thank you to Tina, who's been absolutely invaluable. And I think we're all secretly hoping that she'll be more involved than she realises in the future. And I would echo what she says, that anyone who's able to do even any little thing, it all adds up. So it's appreciated.